Greetings. I'm Cheryl Benton, and I'm absolutely delighted to welcome you to the celebration of changing conversations for a changing world, which I am so honored to have published. You're going to hear more about the European CIQ Collective, and you'll meet the 15 authors who were consultants, coaches, and leaders who shared their stories in applying conversational intelligence in their business and personal lives, and in ours as well. The book is getting rave reviews from global business leaders, and this one from John Saunders, who is CEO of Fleischman Hillard, calls the book outstanding, deeply thought-provoking, and inspiring. And now I'm going to introduce you to our host this evening, my dear friend Deborah Goldstein, who's a longtime New York City community colleague of mine and also a fellow wine enthusiast, although it's a little early in New York to be drinking wine right now. We'll have to do that a little bit later. She's a New York-based coach, consultant, and a facilitator who was certified in conversational intelligence in 2018. Deborah is part of the Conversational Intelligence European Collective, which is a group of coaches who continue to embrace and embody Judith E. Glaser's practical, transformational, and essential work to create connections through conversations. And as Judith said, conversations are the golden threads that keep us connected to others. So Deborah, take it away.
I will. Thank you, Cheryl. I am really so honored to be here to celebrate my fellow coaches. As Cheryl mentioned, I was certified in conversation intelligence in 2018, but I was invited to be a member of the CIQ, Conversational Intelligence European Collective, in 2019 when 24 of us went to a private island in Sweden. And it was a remarkable experience. It was some of the greatest bonding through conversations I've ever experienced. In the course of 3 days, we came up with 4 robust managerial workshop offerings, and I just absolutely adore each and every one of these folks. This year in September, when we were supposed to be in a castle in Scotland, we decided to do a 2-day conference. And I'm not just talking about, arriving on Zoom and starting the presentation. We built the website. We developed the marketing of the 24 different interactive experiences that people got to participate in. We even had old-fashioned networking, like joining a coffee group or a networking event with wine in a lounge that went on for the full 2 days. We had resources and just amazing feedback from the 2-day experience. And that was all while each of these authors, all 15 of them, were knee-deep in creating the conference and delivering the conference. That was when this book was launched. So I'm really excited to today really toast to the authors, and why right now I'd like to introduce 4 of them, and they're going to take you on a little back scene tour of what it was like to actually produce and publish the book. So first, I'd like to introduce Utta Franzen Walker, who is the owner of Business, English, and Culture. She's a coach and facilitator helping organizations build culture through conversations. Utta is now located in Rochester, Michigan, only till the end of the month when she goes back home to Germany. Next is my dear friend Vicky Mita, who actually got me involved in the collective. Thank you, Vicky. Vicky is from Denmark, and she is a culture shift creator, coach, and facilitator, enabling leaders and teams to navigate the changing world and get results. Next, from the West Coast of the United States, California, is Grace Moniz. And Grace is leadership development and team development coach. She helps organizations navigate inner change. And last for right now is my great pleasure to introduce Charlotte Weston Horseman, who is the owner of Culture View. She's a coach and facilitator, and she helps individuals and teams develop their leadership presence through conversational agility. So these are only 4 of my amazing colleagues from the collective, and I'd like to start by asking Grace. I'd like for you to take a look back and have the folks who have tuned in understand a little bit about how the collective was founded and how it came about.
Well, Deborah, it was in 2017, and in the midst of becoming certified in conversational intelligence with Judith B. Glaser, Tanya Murphy Ilibasic brought those in Europe together so they could learn together through the process. And then the following year, in 2018, this virtual group of European coaches who had been meeting regularly virtually, they came together in Bavaria for 5 delightful days of getting to know one another and to co-create new tools. And the event was planned by and hosted by Charlotte and Utta. They did a fabulous job. And that year, the European CIQ Collective was officially launched.
I'm only sorry that I wasn't there in Bavaria the first year. I'm so grateful to have met each of you in Sweden last year. So Vicki, since now we know a little bit of texture about how the collective was launched, how did this idea of the book come about?
Well, it was actually launched, involved in a conversation around how we could support each other. And in order to support each other, we need to know more about each other. And we come from all kinds of countries and cultures with different coach education training background. And in the idea of sharing case studies of how we had applied CIQ came to be, and that involved into, well, why don't we write a book? And some of us, including me, jumped on that idea because I actually think that not only would help us learn to know each other, but it will also give us a project we could work on together, which is always helpful when you want to apply a group together. And we only had this one live meeting a year, and so we needed something to keep us together
and to co-create, as Judith would say, co-create the book. So Utta, I mean, you became authors, but I don't know any of you to actually be authors. So how did that work?
Yes, hello. Well, how did that work? It was a long way, but we had excellent help along the way because we have Grace as someone who is already an experienced writer and author, and Grace taught us how to write. I mean, we all had written bits and pieces for LinkedIn articles, blog posts, etc. But writing for a book was a totally different dimension for all of us. And so Grace did a wonderful job in guiding us through a course on how to become writers and authors. We even recorded the course she did with us so that we could all go back and listen to it again as we were, because it's a process. It just doesn't happen overnight. And that was a wonderful way of guiding us from writing blog posts to writing a book or a chapter of a book. And as Vicki said, we are a remote group and only meet once a year in the same room. And doing something together, working on a product, on something tangible, not a workshop for our clients, but something tangible that we can hold in our hands, is a manifestation of what we co-created. And so for me, writing is a joy. I really enjoy it, but not for everyone. And doing it in a group helped, I think, many of us to lose a little bit of the fear that was connected with all of a sudden becoming a published author, which is a big step. Yeah.
I aspire to be more like you, Utta, in embracing the joys of writing. I'm a work in progress. So Charlotte, I'm curious, what were some of the struggles that you all faced as you came from the kernel of an idea of the book to actually today having the book in hand?
Yeah, well, actually, it started to come together when the European group came together. And during this forming and norming stage that Vicky talked about, coming together and going through from all different directions. We've all immersed in Judith E. Glaser's learning in conversational intelligence. And so during this phase, it was Vicky who came up with the idea, why don't we put our thoughts, our ideas, our learnings to paper? And yeah, that was an idea. And then Grace came up and said, hey, look, let's do this together. I can help you out. And it actually turned into a workshop of co-creating these different articles, each person from, from different angles. So we had quite a bit of diversity in there. And then and I admire you, the non-native speakers in this group who put out their articles, and we edited, and both Grace and I edited and re-edited, because it was so important to get the intent, to formulate the intent in a way that it also had its impact. So editing, and then kind of as we went off into a different tangent, and this project slept for a while, and then we re-energized it as this event came up and said, hey, look, here we've got a product, let's get it out there. And then there was a flurry of activity with editing, re-editing, and new ideas. And thanks to Utta, who's a catalyst in every way, we actually got it out there. We did it. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. And I do applaud the non-native speakers, because things don't translate directly from German into English, clearly. So great.
Swedish, but I mean, right, the English part of it, that was the editing.
Besides the actual book, Grace, what else went into making today? Because it's not just putting together some pages for a book.
Well, to get it over the finish line, one of the things I knew we needed to do was hire an expert, which is a publisher, and that's where Cheryl came in. But while Vicky held the vision and got us moving forward, and Charlotte and I ensured English synchronicity, I think you can call it that, Utta then picked up the baton when we brought the publisher on board, and her expertise is in execution. And she became that primary interface between the publisher and the authors. And she kept us on task in selecting a book cover, in, obtaining endorsements and completing individual promotional videos, whatever was needed. And surprisingly, from, the end of June until we opened our doors for our virtual event in September, Utta kept us on track, and we got everything done. We published it on time, right prior to the event. It was a pretty incredible feat.
Yeah, I just counted 3 months, because our event was at the first week of September, right after Labor Day. So, Utta, thank you for keeping everybody inspired. I'm curious, Vicky, if you would share a little bit about how you actually got all of this over the finish line, from June until September, getting all your ducks in a row.
Actually, as Grace is saying, it is only happening because we have played to the strengths for each individual in the collective. And when I'm looking back, I am amazed of how seamlessly the person in charge has changed depending on the stage of the project. Mm-hmm. And it is, well, I remember it as a kind of an inflow, where just kind of natural happening. And I think that is an alive example of CIQ applied in real life, because there's, and to my knowledge, been no conflict, no, oh, I want to do it like this or something like that, which I have experienced in a lot of other projects I have been part of during my work life. But this has just gone through, and I'm very grateful to be part of the collective and to be part of this community, and I'm grateful to everyone. I loved reading all the chapters in the book.
I couldn't agree more, Vicky. And if I may, I felt the same exact experience of co-creation kind of all the ants, all of us as ants, finding our own way and contributing in our own way. When we put together the conference, there was no leader. We all contributed as needed. And I got to tell you, my favorite times of the week were when I was meeting with the event flow team and meeting with different pockets. So I totally agree, Vicki. I'm curious, Charlotte, what's the collective's aspiration for the book?
Well, essentially to sell it. That's why we're here. But it's to bring the collective credo to the next level, and also to the greater audience. We had spent so much time with Judith's learning and meeting and applying it in our work, and applying it at, like this was mentioned here, and the conversations with each other. And for me personally, I have changed incredibly through this continual feedback in the way we are with each other. And by now we're a larger group, and these conversational rituals that Judith so beautifully shared with us, and together with the tools and the methods that she applies with examples, it was just such valuable learning. And Judith always walked her talk. I mean, this was an inspiration. It wasn't somebody, some professor or somebody talking down to you, this is how you do it. Judith was there with us. She walked her talk. And this is really what gave us the momentum, and to live on in that spirit is something very special. And I am extremely, extremely grateful to her, and also for this group that emerged as a result of her spirit and her learnings that she shared with us. So thank you.
Thank you for saying all of what you just said. I do want to reiterate, folks, at the bottom of the screen is the name of the book, and it is available on Amazon. And at the end of this session today, you're going to get a whole bunch of resources in the chat box, so you can follow up on this and all kinds of really interesting things that we're going to be talking about today. But Utta, I have a question for you now, and basically is, what have you learned from others? How did you feel reading about others' perspectives and stories in the book? Because these are case studies. These are actually things that people applied within themselves, within organizations, within families.
Mm-hmm. Before I answer the question, let me just add a little something to what Charlotte just said about the group and how we work together. And you can now see just a few people here on the screen. There are 15 authors that took part in the writing of the book, and they are all listening and watching in the live stream. So I say hello to all of you out there, because without you, we wouldn't be 15, right? And what Charlotte said about the flow and the trust that was there, it's part of how we connected as the group of 15 authors. It was amazing because, like you said, I was the link between the publisher and the authors, and the trust that I received, in bringing things forward was only possible because how it was done, the trust that was given to me. So thank you for that, authors on the live stream. So now to answer your question, Deborah. Well, what I learned from this experience is that CIQ has many faces and many areas of application. Everywhere where there are human beings, in corporations, in families, even at the North Pole, as we will hear later, CIQ can make a difference. Having an open mind and creativity in how to bring science, or neuroscience in particular, in a context alive is what I learned while we were CIQing, as Pat Saint would say. Because when we are CIQing, we are at our best.
I couldn't agree more. Thank you all. As Utta mentioned, there are 15 authors. So let's take a moment to take a look at 5 authors, and they're a little blurb, a little teaser about each of their chapters. And ladies, See you tomorrow.
What do you do when a polar bear drops in for a visit? Is it so that inner climate importance in times of outer climate danger is important? When you live your dream in the Arctic, communication and self-leadership is crucial. And with tools to regulate your inner climate, you can then turn daily challenges into opportunities for growth. Especially if you live in a 20 square meter cabin with no electricity or running water, where 3 months are in total darkness. To create a better world, we need to share stories that connect, they say. These two adventurous women in their self-imposed isolation. More on this you can read in the first chapter in the book. And my name is Karina Vinberg. I'm from Stockholm, Sweden.
Hi everyone, Coach Helix here. I'm so proud to co-author this book with 15 other great coaches and consultants from around the world. My chapter is chapter 2, Create Your Own Yellow Brick Road to Greatness. And I actually wrote this book in collaboration with Glaser, and it's a really fun way to integrate the Wizard of Oz into Grit, my own methodology, so that you can then create a pathway to be great, because greatness requires intention and purpose. So I highly recommend you read chapter 2. And I hope you have as much fun as I did writing it.
Hello, I'm Grace Moniz, the author of chapter 3, Intentional Listening, Curiosity, and Letting Go. It's my journey with a healthcare company here in Los Angeles in the development of an exceptional leadership retreat. And one of the key aspects of that was the co-creation of the retreat with the senior leaders. I hope you enjoyed the chapter and the many other chapters in Changing Conversations for a Changing World.
Hi, I'm Charlotte Weston Horseman, and I'm the author of Moving from Stuck to Lasting Change, Chapter 4 in Changing Conversations for a Changing World. Moving from stuck to lasting change. So what is that all about? Well, imagine a pole. On the one end, you have this pull towards a compelling aspiration. And on the other, you have this feeling of heaviness, of stuckness, of doubt, of I can't do that. You've got 1 foot on the brake and 1 foot on the gas, and it's not getting you anywhere. So I invite you on a journey to take a look at these entrenched belief systems that keep us stuck and how we move beyond to explore our signature present and how we can step into the light of our authentic self. Hope for you to join me there. See you. Have a good read. Take care.
Hi, I'm Jane. I'm based here in the UK, in London, and I work with professionals who've temporarily lost their career direction. My chapter, chapter 5, is about my personal transformation in shifting my belief about time and never having enough of it, which is shaped in part by my experience in professional services, where time is money, to a new belief where I have 24 hours of space. In this chapter, I discuss one of Judith's models, or roadmaps as she liked to describe it. And it was called PACE, which looks at different dimensions of space: the physical, aspirational, co-creational, and emotional space. And I reflect on how I gained more space through conversations with myself and others, clients, colleagues, and my husband, and how we have all benefited from looking at these dimensions of space, and as I like to call it, creating space through PACE.
Well, Judith was the golden thread of CIQ Collaborative, and neuroscience is as well. So I couldn't be more excited to welcome Joy Hirsch, who is a professor of psychiatry and neurobiology, and director of Brain Function Laboratory at Yale School of Medicine. Joy, thank you so much for joining us today. Your hair looks great, I promise.
Get it out of my face.
I'm so excited to hear from you because I was able to watch a video of you and Judith, and I'm just curious if you would share with us your thoughts about Judith, her insights about neuroscience, and the way she remained curious and intuitive about the power of neuroscience.
Thank you, Deborah. First of all, let me just say it's such an honor to be here in the presence of all of you who have written this amazing book and have done such amazing things with conversation IQ. I have to say, as a scientist, it's very humbling, partly because, I'll answer your question in just a minute, but partly because in science, we answer tiny little questions, and they're never as important as the questions that people like yourselves can ask and even answer. So we serve just a small part of the big picture. And so it's very humbling to me to be involved. Now, was a friend of mine, and I feel very honored to have been her friend. And we had many conversations about science, and the backbone of her thinking actually came from the science. She was very grounded in the neuroscience and made, in my mind, heroic efforts to relate the science to her creative ideas that all of you have elaborated and grown and expanded in this wonderful world of contributions you have to interpersonal interactions and conversation. But Judith was the bridge. She was the bridge between the hardcore science, which she was hungry to hear about, and then she translated it into something that had meaning and use to the real world. And to my mind, she was a real hero for doing that.
I couldn't agree more, Joy. And you said something that was really interesting to me, because you said you asked the small questions, whereas Judith taught us to perpetually ask questions for which we have no answer. So in a way, although I almost failed science in school, you have just now empowered me to feel a little bit like a scientist. I have one more question for you, Joy, and that is something that has always fascinated me about what Judith taught me, which is the ability to change my neurochemistry and your neurochemistry in real time by the words that I choose to use. And I'm wondering if you have any thoughts about that.
Those are very big questions. Neurochemistry, I don't think, is where the real action of the brain is. Where the real action is in a bigger picture, where the parts of the brain that are actually called upon to help form an answer. Neurochemistry actually subserves that, but in truth, the brain is a gigantic toolbox, and we have a whole lot of little tools to do a whole lot of things. And it's how those things are assembled that influences how we respond. And as we learn new tools, those tools become connected in different ways. And so the neurochemistry idea comes from the idea that what we do is grounded in our neuroscience, is how our brains work and how our brains together in conversation influence each other.
Thank you so much. And please sit back with me as we watch 5 other authors' teases to 5 more chapters of the new book. Thank you so much for joining us, Joy.
Thank you, Deborah. Thank you.
Transparency as a catalyst for a healthy and sustainable organizational culture. That's the title of my chapter in the book, Changing Conversations for a Changing World. My name is Utta Franzen, and currently I'm based in Rochester, Michigan, but soon I will be back in Halle, Germany. Transparency is one of these popular buzzwords that, together with authenticity, are high up on the rankings of what makes good leadership. But what is really meant by transparency And how does it relate to building a better organizational culture? These are some of the questions I explore in my chapter, and how transparency changes our conversations in a corporate setting. I hope you will enjoy reading the chapter. Thank you and bye.
Hi, my name is Vicky Miete, and I am a culture shift creator. I help leaders and their teams go from dysfunctional to co-creating and engaged teams that go the extra mile in order to create extraordinary results. I'm also the author of the chapter 7 in the book, the chapter of how to transform company cultures and create engagement. In this chapter, we deconstruct a real-life case showing the impact of the change of the CEO's mindset and approach to change. Her change in her mindset and her approach sowed the seed of trust throughout the organization and built a foundation of change readiness, a change readiness that is lasting even years later. I am looking very much forward to hear your thoughts.
My name is Christian Daly. I'm an agile project leader, a facilitator, and a team coach. My article is about how to create a safe space for project team to co-create and thrive. It's called the Agile Project Room. So if you want great product and services from your teams, go for it. Have a read. Enjoy.
Hi, I'm Karen, and I'm the author of Chapter 9, How Trust Makes for a Safer World. I have over 18 years of experience in living in different parts of the world and working in the front line of high reliability organizations such as oil and gas, nuclear, transport, aviation, railways, fast railways, etc. And during my time, particularly in the front line, people need to be safe, and to be safe, they need to feel trust in their organization and in their teams and their team members, that they can actually say, whoa, I messed up, I want to put up my hand. So we need to create an environment that helps people to be psychologically safe. Having the right conversation helps build trust. And that's what this chapter is all about, is how do we appreciate what trust is so that we can go forward and have a safer world.
Hi, I'm Donna Daigle, and I'm here in Summer Duck, Virginia, a sleepy little village about 60 miles southwest of Washington, D.C. In Chapter 11, Intuition and Communication, a Winning Combination, I share a little bit of my own journey of integrating cognition and intuition and finding balance in a place of resilience and trust. Crisis has a fierce beauty, and that beauty is not always evident while we're in it, but it's often most profound when we get to the other side. My hope in sharing my journey is that you'll find both parallels and connection points to help you discover your own identity within the greater context of community, moving yourself and others from that place of I to that place of we, and creating cultures of trust along the way.
Well, folks, you've now seen 10 out of 15 of the chapters of our book. I think my math is a little bit off, but each of these chapters are actual case studies. And now I'm thrilled to introduce you to an actual case study live. My dear colleague, Karina Vinberg, joins me now. Karina is a leadership trainer and coach contributing to Trusting Cultures. Karina derives her greatest satisfaction from her friendships, her assignments, and fantastic outdoor experiences. And she's actually been able to leverage all of this as she's been working with a team of 2 plus a dog in an expedition, and she helped the 2 and a dog prepare for an undertaking in the Arctic. So Karina has brought Hildy Wallenstrom, who is one of the expeditioners from the Arctic. Hildy is in Sweden right now, as I'm understanding, maybe not, but she's not in the Arctic at this moment. And Hildy has always been fascinated by the early trappers and their stories of survival, their daily struggles, and their simply lived lives. She moved to Svalbard over 23 years ago, and her experiences have ranged from hunting to dog sledding, months at remote huts, ski expeditions, and well over 200 polar bear encounters. Now, I first learned about hearts in the ice, which Hildy will speak about in a moment. I learned about it last year when I met Karina in Sweden. And I was amazed to read the first chapter of this book, Changing Conversations for a Changing World. Karina named the chapter Inner Climate Importance in Times of Outer Climate Danger. And Karina, I'm going to ask you to share the story of coaching your clients. But first, I want to ask Hildy, can you help us understand your 9-month residence in the trapper's cabin in the Arctic, 3 of those months being in total darkness? Can you give us a little texture to that, please?
Sure, I can try. I'm now in, it's on an island called Spitsbergen. It's in the high Arctic. It's north of the country Norway. So it's a neighbor country of Karina. And yeah, well, it's living 3 months in a trapper's cabin that's 20 square meters, built 90 years ago, non-isolated, no running water, no electricity, and our next neighbor is a polar bear, or actually it's around 7 in our area. It's different, but what was the biggest challenge was to be just the 2 of us.
And why did you decide to bring on a coach to help you prepare for this adventure?
Well, this was the biggest adventure and expedition and challenge any of us had done. I mean, I have 25 years of experience up here in the Arctic. I've been living here on Svalbard since 1995, and I have a lot of experience with polar bears and harsh weather and all that. And Sunniva has a lot of experience from the other pole, from Antarctic, and she was the team of 4, the first female team that went to the South Pole. So we knew that this was the biggest challenge we were going to do during our whole more than 50 years. So I met Karina a year before the expedition and asked her to help us with some tools for the upcoming year and the communication we were going to have during this year.
Very smart choice, I must say. And Karina, as you started to work with the 2 women from different continents, living different lives, what was your mindset and what was going to be your strategy about helping them to prepare for this amazing adventure?
Well, first of all, I started out with getting them to feel trust with each other, and by doing a ranking of values to see and do some storytelling around why a value is important to you, and by the stories you also get to know each other. But it was a little bit tough actually to get all the time slots to do it. So I decided to go up there and meet them in real person, which I did right before Christmas. And so there we also started and got connected. And I also wanted to meet Sunniva since I had not met her in real life as well. That was important to me to be able to connect. And I think also values are so important because they're not visible, but they affect our daily lives so much and all the actions that we do. So that's why I started with that, to build trust and to get to know each other.
And not to give too much away from your chapter, but you really went deep asking them questions about what their values were. It wasn't just tell me your values. Oh, these are my top 3 values. You kept on asking why and why. You kept on double clicking, as we say in conversational intelligence. Can you share what double clicking is?
Well, double clicking is really
let's see here. Double clicking is that's the most fantastic tool, which is also so easy to work with, because you really see that you're talking about the same thing. You can get connected by asking, did I understand you the right way? Because this is what I now heard you say, but is that right? So we are really on the same page, and from there we can connect much deeper in the conversations.
Yes, yes. So Hildy, after Karina had worked with you, I'm curious how her training served during some scary and hairy moments when you were in the Arctic.
Yeah, well, I have several stories to share, but I'll pick one. It was a lot of scary moments during this year that we just had. But I have a lot of experience with polar bears from before. Sunniva doesn't. So, but we had talked a lot about our first polar bear encounter on the doorstep, and sure enough, we had one just right after we arrived. But the most scary one we had in November, and Sunniva was going outside, and our dog was at that time inside the hut, and we had the biggest polar bear in the area was right outside. And in moments like that, it was extremely important that I could trust her, that she would do the right choices. What she did, she called my name. I was inside a hut. I was there in 5 seconds, I think. And well, we knew what we should do. And luckily, she reacted the way I wanted her to do, or that was the wise thing to do. She was very calm and didn't do anything to make it more scary. So we really trusted each other. I trusted her and she trusted me. And part of that is the work we did with Karina, that we really knew each other well when we started this big, huge project.
So important. And before I ask Karina about her final thoughts, I do want to point out that both women are wearing beautiful necklaces. Again, at the end of this session, there will be a link to Hearts in the Ice, and you too can purchase one of those necklaces. I had purchased one. It's now sitting on my niece's neck because she loved it. So Karina, final thoughts about your experience so far with the two brave women?
Well, I just say that, it's been a fantastic journey, and this journey keeps on going since Hilda and Sunniva are now heading back in 2 weeks for another overwintering. And as you say, climate change does not stop. And nor do we, Hilda. So the work that you are doing is so, so important. And then it's also important that you keep on working on your foundation together, you and Sunniva and Utta. And so you will also be doing, use the tool Value Online to do a new ranking of the values that are most important now for you to be able to connect and to go on during this winter, so you can grow and thrive together and be the best Bamsaboo team that you can be, the three of you. And you also need to, navigate in the labyrinth of life with more knowledge about yourself as a human system, where you connect and how you react and act and collaborate. And also to integrate and to build trust for the future and for the future friendship.
Such wise words. And it's amazing how it sounds very complicated, and it all comes down to the words that we use and the trust we build. Ladies, thank you so much. Hildy, I will be following your progress as you return up north. And folks, now let's take a look at the last 5 chapters of the book.
Changing conversations for a changing world. So which of these conversations in the book did I change? I'm Linda Keller, a Brit living on the edge of the Black Forest in Germany and the author of Chapter 12. My chapter is about staying in the present, about being open, remaining curious, listening to connect rather than listening to reject. or judge in any way. Listening to connect helps others open up and share their deeper worries, their deeper feelings, and creates trust. In my chapter, also sharing knowledge about distrust and trust in the brain, while reflecting intention and impact, created a whole new conversation and opened up a new business opportunity that was to lead to saving jobs, creating trust, and flattening hierarchical structures. I hope you enjoy reading it.
Hi, I'm on a mission to stop CEOs and high-flying leaders from hitting burnout and crashing. My name is Marion Bourne, and over the years, I've noticed how if you're a CEO or a high-flying leader, you are really good at looking after your business, your career, your family, your kids, even your parents, but you're not so good at taking care of yourself. And the problem is actually just one of awareness. All too often, the issue of stress isn't even recognized until a visit to the doctor reveals the price you have paid with your health. So my chapter is all about stress and the impact it has on every single area of life.
Hi, I am Sonja Vlaar and I am in the book with 2 articles. Chapter 10 I co-created with Vicky Miete and Tanja Murphy-Ilibasic and is about co-creation. In chapter 14 I write about inclusion and the brain, and that is such an important topic because it is about the question who is part of the group and who is not. Do I belong to a group or do I not? And when this question is seen from the perspective of the brain, inclusion is all about how our brain creates bias. I'm a coach, consultant, and a virtual facilitator. Work with leaders and teams using applied neuroscience to create magic out of messiness. I hope you will enjoy reading our book. Bye.
Hello. My name is Tanja Murphy-Ilibasic and I'm a Brit living in Germany.
Hello, my name is Sonja Vlaar and I'm Dutch living in the Netherlands.
And I am Vicky Miete and I'm living in Denmark. And we have chosen to write an article about how we have co-created because the ups and downs is actually part of being a community.
And we had lots of experience with the ups and downs because we are not only the case study, we wrote the article together and we are trying to create this video together.
Yes, as co-creation is actually about sharing ideas without judgment, and we did that from the beginning to the end. We hope that our case study will be helpful for you in your journey of co-creation. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ailish McKeown from Blackrock, County Louth, Ireland, and I have written chapter 14. It's about Laura, who wanted to achieve her dream job of becoming a community health nurse, and through the use of conversational intelligence and the 5 brains she achieved it. In chapter 16, I talk about Judith and Richard's trip to Ireland, how they landed on Irish soil on the 10th of September 2017, and how I watched this lady operate and how she was keynote speaker at several events. And I spent time with her outside of those events and getting to know and understand who Judith was as a person and the love that Richard and her shared. I also noted that this lady, her dream was to get conversational intelligence out to the world. And that was her life's purpose. And from she was 14 years old, she had that dream and she was achieving it. And sadly, she has passed on November 2018 and we all miss her, but we are still spreading our word through changing conversations in a changing world.
Yes, Ailish, we are continuing Judith's work in conversational intelligence, and now I could not be more honored to invite Richard Glaser, who I met as Judith's husband, and he was also her partner in crime for over 40 years in business together. They shared the mission of transforming cultures, moving from I to we, and supporting their clients get to the next level of greatness through conversations. Richard, I loved reading Eilish's chapter and just imagining you and Judith in Ireland. And I'm so pleased that you've come here today. I'm hoping that you'll share your thoughts about the book and how it represents and embodied Judith's work.
Well, I mean, what a group of erudite people. It just blows me away. And it's very touching. I think the themes that all of the coaches and consultants really hit on are based on words create worlds. And once you work from that premise, I didn't want to stare. Sorry. But I think once you work from that premise, you build trust, and a lot of other things fall into place. And creating the awareness of what goes on in the brain, I think allows people to handle conflict, allows people to handle differences, because they can understand when they want to go in a different direction, as opposed to double clicking or asking more about what's going on. And everyone here says it much better than I could say it. I was always somewhat the backroom person, and so Judith was all these ideas were Judy's. I mean, she just spewed them out one after another after another. For her, it was her whole life after she did all her artwork and everything else. But Judith was a very accomplished artist for many years. But in any event, it became her whole life. It ran everything that she did. And she was so excited to meet people and interact with them. She just loved people. And it's interesting to me that almost everyone considered Judith their best friend. She just had that ability to do that, which I don't, but she did. So I've kind of like flowed along behind her. But I'm just impressed so much with how people here have taken Judith's work and made it grow. And that's what's so important, that there's so much more that can occur from conversational intelligence. There's so much more learning to get. There's so much more different ways to adapt it. There's so many different ways to use it. And I think putting together case studies is so important for the readers to read, because it helps them understand, if they're coaches and consultants, how conversational intelligence can help them in their practices. And if they're just casual readers, it helps those readers understand how conversational intelligence can help them in their families and in their other relationships. I remember Judith's funeral. A woman from Texas was there with her husband, and she came up and gave me a big hug, and he's sheepishly behind her. And he says, "Well, you saved our marriage." So I was going to say, was that good or bad? But I didn't. But she said, he said, "Oh, you saved our marriage." And she talked about the difference in the relationship with her husband and their children and all that. So I think these case studies that exemplify conversational intelligence are so important for almost everyone who reads the book. It allows people to grow and understand and try new things. The one thing that Judith had was no fear. Judith had great courage. She had no fear. She would try anything. And that's how that concept of being an experimenter came about. And she would encourage people, don't have fear, just do it. And I think that's the other thing that comes out of from these case studies, is that all of these authors have no fear, whether there's polar bears or not, but they have no fear. And so, I mean, it's just such a privilege to be here and have and just have the opportunity to hear people speak about what they wrote and how they got to putting it down on paper, which is not, for Judy can write all the time. But for a lot of people, I understand it's not the easiest thing to do. So.
Yes. Well, I hope you wouldn't mind after we invite everybody that is backstage onto the screen to wait until everybody comes on, Richard, and then we're going to ask you to give a toast to this new book, and may it make a big difference in all of our lives. So, Richard, if you would, and if everybody would raise their glass or their cup.
I'm trying to fit everything into this camera. But anyhow, I wish you all the best of luck. In Yiddish, they say Sei gesinnt, which means to all your great health and l'chaim. For courage and a great new year and everything else that goes with that. It's a pleasure to be here. I mean, you're all wonderful. And as I said in the book, I wish I could all give you hugs, but we can't do that. So we'll have a cocktail together.
Perfect. And perhaps next year in Scotland, we can all hug. Thank you so much, Richard. Utta, will you please say a few final words?
Oh, yes. I want to say thank you. Thank you, especially to Cheryl. I mean, without you and you believing in that we could actually publish that book with you, the book wouldn't be there. So you were always there for us newbies in that field. You supported us with great guidance, patience, and passion, I think. There was a lot of passion as well. And we all authors felt especially connected with you, even though we've never met in person. So at one point, it would be lovely if we could meet in person. So a huge thank you to you and to everyone else who is listening, who's taken the time today and will take the time to watch the recording. So here's to you.
Cheers, everyone.
Cheers. And because Utta had mentioned that if we were in person, Utta would be handing you flowers right now. I'm hoping that Stu is in the background.
However, here we are.
Flowers.
Oh my goodness. And I was chasing him away. You probably said, like, why are you interrupting this? Well, thank you. That is so, I just can't say how touched I am. And it has been such an incredible privilege for me to get to meet every single one of you. You're just an amazing, amazing group. And I'm just thrilled and delighted. And now everyone needs to buy this book.
I have one other thing to say. If you're ever in New York City, and I know travel is difficult, but if you're going to be in New York City, make sure you call me, and we'll either have a cocktail or a dinner together.
So to do my job, to finish this on time, I want to thank all 15 authors to have wholeheartedly given a gift to the world. I have learned so much from each and every one of you, and I look forward to being part of the next book. Thank you all so much, and we'll see you very soon.
Thank you.